You are not enough, but he is. Have you ever heard your parents say this to you? Or maybe you were told this on an ad trying to sell you the latest fragrance or shampoo. Or maybe it's not something someone told you, maybe it's a phrase you told yourself when you stare at the famous singer who's somehow younger than you but world famous for writing a single song. I recall when Lorde first released her song, Royals, I felt like crap because she was a teen my age, but I didn't have the fame that she had. So I beat myself up and told myself I wasn't doing anything with my life, and that at this rate, I would never amount to anything. That was only partially true. But will you ever be enough? Enough for what? What is the standard, and who set it in place? But a deeper question for us to ponder is anyone really enough? He was, he is, and he will always be. But understand carefully, because your bard doesn't know the truth, and will pursue someone they believe is enough until they either become the person they worship, or see for themselves who that person really is. So let's give your bard a role model to pursue. When I was younger, I always wanted to be just like Elvis Presley. But why do we want to be rock stars? Well, what if I told you that being a rock star, or in this case, a bard, is the most powerful class in D&D. This is because of one simple tool that every rock star uses: music. But in order to see this, we must first look at what music can do. Music was designed to move the mind and spirit. When the mind and spirit move, the body follows, which is why so many people can dance without thinking. Even the God who will always be asks us to come before him with joyful songs, because his heart is moved by our musical songs of worship to him. Music is also a gateway that subdues our senses and opens us up to other realms. Last week, my fiance and I watched Dune 2 in theaters, but before the movie started, the manager slid into the room to personally tell us that a sound engineer sat in every single row of our theater to ensure that perfect sound could be heard from each seat. Now, I consider myself a tough guy who rarely cries, but when I do, it's because I'm crumbling under the power of seeing someone lay down their life for a person they love, because that is true love. But while watching Dune with all the screams and chants and drums combined with the perfect speakers and acoustics, my heart rate and emotions were transported into another realm. So as I watched the atomic missiles that were being launched at an army I really didn't care about, I caught myself crying. My emotions were no longer my own. It was like I had no control over them. Perhaps you've felt music take you to a place where you didn't feel like yourself anymore. A musician who did a particularly good job at transporting large groups of people to a different realm on a consistent basis was Michael Jackson. When he performs live, it's as though the people there enter a trance and behave like a depraved mob, no longer fully human, but there is something primal that is released. Someone from the boomer generation might look upon a roaring crowd like this and think, "Goodness gracious, they've lost their minds." It's a form of mind control that has been present for millennia. I can think of a particularly swift individual whose music causes her fans to act the same way. But if music moves the mind and spirit of the listener, then we must ask the question, where is your mind and spirit being moved to? The answer is where the musician desires. Will we use music to make the masses worship us? Or is there a higher calling? I want my music to move the minds and spirits of the people who hear it to behold their king. Where will your bard move the minds and spirits of their people to? Has someone in your fantasy world already moved your bard's mind and spirit? Perhaps your bard has a Michael Jackson figure in their life, but if this video was a song, then let this be verse 2. Because if you don't want your bard to feel fake and flat, then let your bard follow the purpose of your sound. Don't conform the sound to your bard. Now that may sound a little confusing, so let me explain. Most players pick a bard and let the genre follow the bard and call it intuitive. Maybe they'll say, I want to play a heavy metal bard who's going to play the electric guitar. Instead, I want you to pick the purpose for your bard, their core desire, their core belief, and then build their musical style around that core belief. For me personally, I'm a genetic mutt of Asian and white descent, so growing up in a first world country where all my friends were white, I always felt self-conscious about my appearance. But it wasn't until one fateful morning at my cousin's birthday party when a group of his friends were playing on his loft bed. I wanted to be like them, so I climbed up to join them on the bed, but one of the little boys looked me straight in the eye and said, "This bed is only for cool kids." I was 4 years old, so I lost my temper and I applied pressure point torture to ensure that this 4-year-old boy suffered for trying to exclude me. But why had he rejected me if he didn't even know me? We had only just met moments before, so the only rational explanation I could think up in my little brain was he judged me because I looked different. So I told myself, I'm an ugly mutt, so the only way I'll be accepted by others is if I can win them with my words. I then developed speaking skills until I became one of the most charismatic people I know. Many people these days will come up to me with a serious but grateful face and tell me that they view me as their best friend. I now have thousands of friends in over 20 countries, and I can make new friends and instantly gel with people in seconds, but this is because I believed I was an ugly mutt. So I overcompensated for my looks because a kid told me I wasn't cool enough to be with them when I was 4 years old. I've since worked through those inner vows with God and have come out healed, knowing who I am. But this begs the question, what makes your bard so charismatic? Was your bard born a natural charmer, or is he overcompensating for something? Perhaps your bard has a large birthmark on their face, so they learned to smooth talk as a means to divert attention from their insecurity. Or maybe your bard is a professional people pleaser because deep down inside, they believe the only way people will like them is if they give people-pleasing words. Feel free to use yourself or someone you know in your life who is awfully charismatic. Then ask yourself, why are they so charming? What core belief fuels their gab? There will often be several beliefs that lead to one core reason. By giving your bard a core belief, your players will find your role-playing infinitely more relatable at the table, which makes the game far more engaging for everyone. It is with great glee that I now present you verse 3. If I were to ask you, what is one thing that makes you different from every other species on the planet? How would you respond? Would you say the ability to build computers? Perhaps you might think it's to read and write. And if those are your answers, then you're not far off. Because what makes us different from every other species in creation is God's ability to create. This makes you and me like God. It's a gift that some of us use and all of us can benefit from. One of the deadliest weapons in your bard's tool belt is creativity. Whether it's the ability to write new songs or thinking outside the box in combat while the fighters and wizards deal large bursts of damage, a bard who doesn't create will find themselves left behind. But as the D&D movie proved what has been true from the start, a bard with creativity is the most valuable asset any party can have. So I exhort you to sharpen and hone the muscle of your creativity when playing your bard, because this is a skill you can use outside of your game, creating solutions to problems other people have. Now that's the kind of friend I want in my life. Creativity is a gift from God, and He gives more to those who ask and steward it well. Shout out to Holy Spirit, because all my best creative ideas come from Him. Now at the end of the day, we all want to be accepted. The very game of D&D is a game of acceptance. Will the GM accept my character? Will the players think I'm weird? Will the rogue share the loot he found with me? The answer is no. But can you think of a time where you changed who you were so that you could be accepted? Maybe you changed the way you talked, or you got a wild hairstyle. Or perhaps you changed one of your core beliefs about health or politics just to fit in. But how far is your bard willing to go to be accepted by those they admire? I'm going to give you an easy way to connect with all of your fellow players on a much deeper level by singling one player out. And trust me, they're going to love this. First, pick one party member for your bard to admire. Don't make it romantic, make it admiration, like a big brother or sister who you look up to. Let's say it's your party's druid. Perhaps your bard admires your druid's ability to be so carefree and one with nature. So your bard subconsciously, above all else, wants to be accepted by your druid. But this can be done very subtly in a way that will make your table smile. Perhaps, at random, during the session, your druid begins talking about something they love, like chipmunks. So your bard pipes in, talking about how much they also love and admire the chipmunk species, when really your bard is full of crap and can't tell the difference between a chipmunk or a squirrel to save their life. Then, later on, at the next major city, your bard goes to the library to take out a book on chipmunks to learn more, but hides the book from your druid for fear of being exposed as a phony who knows nothing about chipmunks. Or it could be much simpler. Maybe your druid smokes a pipe. Maybe your bard has never lit a pipe a day in their life, but perhaps your bard acts like they love to smoke pipes, only to sputter like a dying Chevy from the 60s after taking a single puff from your druid's pipe. Little encounters like these speak 1,000 words. You could also do this with an NPC your party is traveling with, but when you do it with a player, it's 10 times more meaningful, because then the people behind the characters feel accepted too. So, to improve your roleplay, here are a few questions you can answer for your bard right now. What does my bard think they still need in order to be enough? Does my bard use music to steal the hearts and souls of people, or to redirect people to a higher pursuit? What is the core belief that makes my bard so charismatic? And who in the party does my bard view as an older sibling they want to impress? I hope this helps you. I hope this was enough. I have found the one who freed my soul. He alone will I set my heart to worship. Who do you worship? Are they enough?